Okay. So we left off when we last left our hero. Was that a reference to Ram, or was that a reference to the mashal of Ich Milchama? I was just speaking inappropriately there. So we were doing the paragraphs about God not being physical. So just to summarize, we had 8 being the introduction of the principle that since God isn't physical, then God isn't physical, and then those are the 3 points from the psukim that exemplify this, that he can't be a body because bodies can't be in 2 realms. He can't be, he doesn't have an image, and images are properties of bodies, and he doesn't have a likeness, and bodies have likenesses. Then paragraph tes was the introduction of the principle of Dibur Torah Kol Hashem B'nei Adam. So first he says that the Torah, everything is in accordance with the mind of man. That's stating the reason for any sort of non-literal speech in the Torah. Like why couldn't the Torah speak in terms of truth? Because the true terms we wouldn't be able to comprehend. So that's everything's according to the mind of man that only recognizes bodies. Therefore, the Torah spoke in human language. Kinuyim, we still didn't get a clear idea other than something from the Darim, which I'm still not clear on. And but we did say that the what do we say about the Shenozi Barak Harbi and the mashal part there? We had something that was valuable there. One thing is we differentiate between that and everything else. That like that's not a necessary mashal. Unlike speaking about Hashem, saying He is one or He exists. Those are like about who He is, and there's no real way for the Torah to establish the existence of God in our minds without speaking about Him in physical terms. But the Torah could have expressed whatever idea it's trying to express about the sword if it didn't say that. Right. So that's just saying that that's another figure of speech that's going to be used once the Torah is speaking in human language. But we didn't get what the kinoi thing is, I don't think. Right.
Well, I think also in the Perek case, it seems like they're all saying that's like an obvious metaphor. Like
yes, right.
No one's gonna think
that's also true, right? Yeah. He's asking, right. Okay, fine. So then we said in Yud, that is talking about how even the Nevi'im could only perceive God, could not perceive God as He actually is. And that is like a further development of this idea, saying like, don't think that it's just that most people, the masses can't perceive God in this way. And that's why the Torah is catering to them. No human beings can perceive God in this way. So that's why it talks about them seeing God in visions, prophetic visions that don't correspond to the reality. Then from there, it's like, well, what about Moshe Rabbeinu? You know, so this is something I didn't fully appreciate yesterday. We start off with ordinary human comprehension, then Nevi'im, and then Moshe Rabbeinu. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu's limit, and then Moshe Rabbeinu's actual knowledge. I think that's the progression there. I mean, the limit is he can't grasp God's face, but which the Rambam is going to say later on that the only ones who can grasp God and have positive knowledge are the angels and God Himself. You know, have you ever heard that shot, by the way, of Lo Yir Ani Adam V'chai?
That if you're physical, you can't have positive.
Yes. How do you translate? What's the translation? Lo Yir Ani Adam V'chai.
We're saying can't. It's Yir Ani, right?
Yeah.
See me.
Yeah.
And be alive.
Right. So that's, I think, the standard translation. So the Ralbag, is that?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So the Ralbag said, I think, I don't know if he gets this from the way that the pasuk says it, but it's Vachai. I think he gets it from Vachai. So man cannot see me, nor can a living being. And he says living being is talking about the angels, that the angels are also limited in the perception of God. But that's, you know, but so he's not saying man cannot see me and live, but man cannot see me, nor can any chai. But that poses a problem with what I'm saying. That's, I thought I'd bring that up once because the Ram mentioned the pasuk. Okay, so then he says in Yud, well, in the standard Yuds, but in my Yud Aleph, what did Moshe Rabbeinu seek to see? So he wanted to see God's face, which means to know God in a way where he has positive knowledge of God's, the equivalent of God's form. Obviously, God doesn't have a form, and God is differentiated from everyone else. But what he got was a way to differentiate God from all other existences via his back, right? Which is not seeing positive knowledge, but he can distinguish him from others. Yeah. Hello. Then, so that takes us through Yud Beis in the online numbering, and in the good numbering, and then the we're now up to Yud Aleph in the standard ROMs. Okay, so this is what we did yesterday. Yeah.
Tet and Yud in the standard thing, in the standard, breakup.
Yeah.
Those are really one idea. It's four paragraphs that's building up to the point about how people can't really truly understand.
Yeah. Okay, so then we read the facts of this yesterday, but we didn't analyze it yet. So let's do this again. Okay, we'll read it inside again. So we're on 111 in the standard halacha 11 in the standard things. So let's take it one at a time. And I also want to open this because there's some terms that I was not sure about the translation of, which I've got to look up. Do we have Mr. Green Dictionary here? Oh, it's over there. If you want to, get that. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so we have once it has been made clear that he is not a body. It is clear that he's not subject to bodily occurrences. Okay, I just want to see what they say about oros here. Oros hagufin. Maybe nothing. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. All right. So we'll translate as occurrences or accidents right now. Okay. And then we'll see, but we'll have to classify them. Lo chibur v'lo pirud. Now that's an interesting one. Neither combination nor separation. What strikes you as funny about that? Or first of all, what's your understanding of it?
It's repetitive. He's saying the same thing.
No, because chibur pirud, right? Combination, separation.
Right.
What's pshat, first of all? What does it mean when he says, spell it? What does he mean when he says God doesn't have, is not subject to combination or separation?
Meaning things can't, he can't be brought together or taken apart.
No
parts.
Okay, so
Right.
that's what I thought also. What do you say, Isaac?
I said parts.
Yeah, that's what I thought also. But I feel like that's already ruled out, not by God's non-physicality, but by God not being, partaking in plurality.
Mm-hmm.
That's God is one. He already said God is not one like a species with various parts.
Right, he said that, right.
So then there's another way to read this. And again, I'm not sure which one's correct, but what would be the other way to read it? I think joining or separating from something else. Meaning, I think it might be describing a relation of God. God cannot attach to something or separate from something. I'm not sure, but that would make it not redundant then, because we've already established that God doesn't have parts. So of course, he can't separate into parts because he doesn't have parts. But saying that he cannot relate to something, he can't be, mechubar to something or separate from something. And then I think that fits in with the rest of the stuff also, because now he says makom and mida. Makom is also a type of relation. It's place, right? Mida is a measure though, and mida is an interesting one because that's to me, mida is more intrinsic to the idea of God not being physical and not being a body, because only bodies have measurements. So that one I'm not exactly sure about. V'lo aliyah v'lo yerida, neither going up nor going down. V'lo yamin v'lo small, that's also very physical, but it's also a relation term because you can't have right or left except in relation to something else, right? V'lo pani v'lo achor, not a front or a back, that's also a relational term. Yeshiva v'lo amida, and those are actions, sitting and standing, right? That also seems to require a body.
Right, and it would seem from everything else he's saying that it follows what you're saying, and he's trying to express this point that that God can't be in relation to anything. It's a completely own entity.
that
separate existence.
I think so. I think that's the thrust of it. That's why I think the combination separation is different than at first glance. Yeah. See if Mr. Footnote says anything. Nope. Yeah. And then Vinomatsu Bisman, he doesn't exist in time. That also somewhat bothers me.
Yeah, it's weird. He's qualifying his non-existence in time.
Yes, I mean, I can understand not existing in time. If you just said that, I'm good with that. And you do need to say that because that's actually one of the Ikkarim, he doesn't exist in time. And then Achi lo reshis v'achris, I could also understand that. But then Uminyan Shanim, that's the weird one to me, in a number of years. an age. Why does he have to go that far?
Well, I don't understand the absolute. She reaches the authorities.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to say that?
It sounds like it's saying he's not in time to this extent,
Right.
but like to a different extent he is. Like,
Oh, you mean the odd part is bothering you? Yeah.
Or maybe this is the furthest extent.
I mean, I just took that as such that, meaning it's just elaborating on what it means that he's not on time. I mean, that's one thing you could be bothered by is it's clear that he doesn't have a, well, okay, again, see, this is in concept, this stems from the fact that God's an independent existence. Because if you're independent existence, you can't have come into existence.
Right, but you could still, well, theoretically, you could still be in time. Like maybe you could prove that an independent existence couldn't be.
Right.
But in terms of the way people think about it,
yeah, I mean, I feel like we're this is very easy to slip into our previous exploration of B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, of God of eternity, that God is the God of time, but he's not in time.
Right.
I don't know though. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a possible theory about God.
Yeah.
That like he does interact with creations in a way that interaction is bound by time.
Well,
It's
it's
just like
perceived by us in time.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go as far as Isaac went. That we exist in time, but is he interacting with us?
If God's on time,
I'm
then
not saying
we're
he's
perceiving it
interacting.
in time.
He's not interacting with us earlier or later, but I'm saying the effects of an interaction happen.
Right.
in time.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So he's not found in time, or like he's not like present in time to the point where you say there's before or after anything having to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say the effects of his interaction with the world are found in time.
Okay, so you're saying that that's what it means when it's saying he's not in time, he doesn't exist in time, meaning that he himself is not in time, but effects of him are. Yeah, I hear.
I'm saying the odd.
The odd, yeah. I guess I'm just not bothered enough by the odd to introduce a new element of like, because this is not about us so much, or like the world. I mean, I know what we said is about his relation to stuff. I don't know. I'm not keen. I don't have a solid objection. I just think it's an expression such that he would have a beginning and an end. He's just explaining what Matzah Bisman means. Yeah. Minyan Shanim I don't get though. I don't know why he has to specify that. And then Ve'eno Mishtana, and he doesn't change. She'ein lo davar she'yigrom lo shinoi. Now that's another thing that bothers me, because why doesn't he change? Like the fundamental reason why he doesn't change. Well, what do you say if someone just asks you point blank, hey, why doesn't God change?
He doesn't exist in time.
Yeah. So one thing is you could say he doesn't exist in time, which is definitely, it seems to be why he's putting this in this halacha, But I think there's a more primary reason why he doesn't change.
Because he's an independent existence. Like he exists just as himself. Like no.
So that sounds like the reason that Rambam's giving. So that's good. I mean, that he's independent existence.
Yeah.
And that still bothers me because then why is he putting this here? I mean, I guess it's because it's a bodily accident. But
right.
Another reason why God can't change is because he's one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's impossible for something to change if they're absolutely one. Like the example is like if you have an apple that's green and then ripens and turns red. So there's at the very minimum two things. There's the apple and its color. So and if the apple, in order to talk about any change, then the thing that you're talking about has to have at least two qualities, an essence and a characteristic. So God is one and therefore he doesn't change. It's ein davar she'yigrom lo shinoi seems to be more like your idea that nothing can affect him. But like the thing I also don't like about it is it kind of leaves open the notion. Well, and people will say this, he can change himself. What if he wants to become a barber and cuts on Pharaoh's hair? Right? But that when you leave yourself open to ein lo davar she'yigrom lo shinoi, well, what about God himself?
Right.
Whereas to me, it's a much stronger argument to say God can't change because he's one.
Yeah.
Or God can't change because he would be that would be in time. Just the time thing is a little bit more abstract. Like that,
I think the one thing is actually a little more abstract.
The what thing?
The one.
I hear that.
I don't think it is, and the reason why is because if you ask someone to explain the one thing, you could just explain it the way I did. But the other way, you have to define what time is.
Yeah, but I think most people would agree that time is just an expression of change. There's moment A and moment B, and moment A looks one way.
I don't think most people would think
that.
that.
No.
That is an expression of change.
Well, hold on. If I said that, I feel like people would agree to that.
I don't think so. And the riot is I've tried this many times as a high school teacher, you know. Now that I'm not doing a scientific survey, but like I think people think of time as a thing. I think people think of time as an objective like existence, which is why it's so difficult to think of God being outside of time. Like for example, because I'll tell you exactly what kids say when you tell them that. Okay, is time as a measure of change. So, well, what if I just have like what if the universe had nothing in it but like a perfect sphere that just was? Time's still passing because the clock's still ticking.
Right.
Like they picture it as though.
But it's different in moment A and it's different in moment B. Here
No, but what if it's
location A? Here it exists in location B.
What if it's not changing? What if it's not changing?
Oh, well then we're not talking about time anymore. We're talking about an eternal.
But time's still passing. If you were looking at that experiment,
it's not. If it's not changing, time can't be.
Yeah, see, but I'm saying this is how people think of time, and this.
I understand.
Yeah, right. And maybe this is a problem because we have watches.
Right.
You know that like people are. There was a time when when people didn't view time essentially as a measure. You know, like that you're like we think of time like in minutes and seconds and hours and you know, I mean people had days back then obviously, but like you know, but it's you know, and the other thing also is like, yeah, I mean time is not easy. And like for example, also let's say like to Aristotle, right? To talk about something the Rambam would have had to confront. What is time according to Aristotle if it's eternal?
Right.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, right. I mean, time is a very, very difficult concept that like, you know, so that's why I'm arguing. And again, none of this supports or goes against the Rambam. But like, to me, if someone asked me, why can't God change? I'd say because he's one, and I would explain it and we'd be done, you know? Or I would say, here's another one. Why can't God change? Because if he changed, he would be like other bodies. And we already said God is not like other bodies.
Yeah, but as soon as you use the proof of, well, then it would be like something else, I feel like anybody can just answer, and it doesn't check out, but it's a very easy answer. Just be like, oh, well, it's a different type
Spiritual
of
change, yeah, right.
Like, oh, well, the same way he has a different type of
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
right.
right.
Look, I see one, God is one.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
different.
right.
So, oh, it's a different.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
For anything,
people like that
yeah.
move also. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it technically works, but okay, well, you're talking about the same thing that I'm talking about now because we're talking about a different thing.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
not disagreeing anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You proved my point.
Yeah. That's the line of reasoning you always get into when you try to argue with someone that God doesn't have emotions. They're like, he does. It's spiritual emotions. Ha! I got you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Spiritual emotions.
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's paragraph 1. That's all those things in one. So it is a little bit of a cholent of different kinds of qualities and relations. And I don't know if I should be bothered by that. And I also kind of feel, and this is just me subjectively reading the Rambam here. I'm clearly willing to admit this is my imperfection. I feel like the thing about time and change should be in a different paragraph.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the Ikkarim, and yet he's just saying that this is a subdivision of God's incorporeality. You know, like this apparently rises to the level where in the Ikkarim, God not being physical and subject to physical occurrences, which is the exact lashon he uses in Chelek, and God being eternal are two separate Ikkarim. And here's like, yeah, here's a bunch of things God can't do. And one of them is he's not in time, you know, like, and not things God can't do, things that make God not subject to physical occurrences, you know? Yeah. So it's just slightly bothering me. Well, yeah. I mean, that actually supports this idea as well, you know? I mean, that's the argument Rambam makes, obviously not in space-time terms, but in the more Nevuchim that we read, where he says time only exists with physical, because time is dependent. I mean, he uses the argument that is the real argument of it is a measure of change, and change is only possible in physical bodies. So you can only have time with things that are physical, you know? Yeah.
Is it possible, we did say yesterday that he is like breaking this up according to halachos? That's not a new halacha, so he just has to kind of. That's
also true. That's a good point, right? So in terms of so this is now where we have to, I think, go into comparing this to the next one and see what's the difference between this category and the next category, which again the publishers lump them all into one, right? In the standard editions, I think. Yeah. Right. Okay. Fine. But
I was going to ask that. Actually.
Yeah. So the Rambam now has something, and I think I'm curious as to how you can answer this question about what is this next category and what's different. Okay, here we go. Ein lo mavas lo chaim kachai haguf hachai. So he has no death, nor does he have life like the life of a living body. V'lo sichlus, nor foolishness, v'lo chachma kechachmas ha'isha chacham, or nor wisdom like the wisdom of a wise person. Lo shena v'lo hikitza, neither sleep nor awake. V'lo kas v'lo schok, neither anger nor jesting. V'lo simcha v'lo atzvus, neither happiness nor sadness. V'lo shtika v'lo dibur k'dibur ha'adam, neither silence nor speech like the speech of a person. You notice he doesn't say that for the emotions, right? He doesn't say God has emotions, just not like the emotions of a person. Yeah, that's a good diok. Yeah, I got to pocket that one. Kaf amr chacham ein lamala lo yeshiva v'lo amida v'lo oref v'lo ipui. That was the word I was going to look up last time, which I didn't get a chance. Oref and ipui. I would say oref is neck, right?
Yeah.
Because amkshe oref.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think though it means something else. Where does the Rambam say it? I want to say he says it in Chulin, but where would I get that from? When do I learn the Rambam in Chulin on Mishnayos? So that leads me to question whether that's true. I know where he says it. Okay, I know where I get it from. So it's in. You know what? We should just go through this now because we'll read the Rambam's other versions. Okay, I have 3, so someone's gonna have to fight. Here you go. You guys can fight about it.
Figure it out.
Okay, so
and take that one.
And then we'll find another.
Yeah.
Where am I referring to?
okay, so we are looking in Sanhedrin, which is gonna be in the second half. And once you're in Sanhedrin, then you'll look at page Kuf Mem Aleph, but that's not but there are lots of Kuf Mem Alephs in this thing, so it's only the Sanhedrin one.
Which Perek?
Which Perek?
Yeah, sorry.
Chelek.
Oh.
But yeah, 141 or Kuf Mem Aleph. You got it, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how Yesod has Shlishi. So the third fundamental or foundation, Shlilas Hagashmus Mimeno, negation of physicality in relation to him. V'hu, namely Shazeh Echad, this oneness, this being who is one, Eno Guf Lo Koach B'Guf, is neither a body nor a bodily potential. V'lo Yeru'uhu Ma'oros Hagufim, and there cannot occur to him bodily occurrences. So that's what he said here. Kagon, now he says Tenua V'Hamenucha, motion and coming to rest. That he doesn't list here in the Mishnah Torah.
Right.
Unless that's what
Unless that's what he's talking to, yeah, sleep.
Chibur and Pirud. Oh, I was thinking of Chibur and Pirud.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
That's
It's not.
but that's weird, right?
well, just say like going up and going down. And all that.
Yeah, that's true. Lo be'etzem v'lo mimikra, neither essentially nor accidentally. I don't know what that would mean in relation to motion. Like, I guess like a set motion versus like you happen to move.
Right, like the sphere.
Like the spheres are like an essential motion, right? Ulafika shalalu mimenu alema shalom hachibur v'hapirud v'amru. See, this is the weird thing. Therefore, they negated from him combination and separation, saying lo yeshiva v'lo amida v'lo oref v'lo apui. So first of all, how's that a reference to chibur and pirud? Maybe this will help us to figure out what those are. And then this footnote here is where I got it from. Oh, it's okay. It says, so he explains it. Sorry, he explains it himself. Klomar lo pirud v'lo oref. Okay, so wait, which one's pirud? Pirud is apui, and oref is oref. What is he explaining even?
Wait, what is Araf and Apoi?
Well, oref we said means neck, but I don't know what that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So lo oref lo pirud v'hu. Oh, sorry, lo pirud v'hu oref. Okay, so pirud is oref. That's what he's saying. Pirud is separation, and oref is separation. V'lo chibur ki apui min ve'afu b'kasef plishtim. They. We gotta look that up. 27. So that's in. Oh no, where is it? Where's the pasuk? Does it say? Yeshayahu. Yeah, 11:14. Oh yeah, thanks. We don't need lost copies if you just want to look it up and yeah. Is 11:14. What are you looking at, Isaac?
So by origin equally,
Yeah.
it says Hagia.
Yeah.
So I decided to look at the articles
Yeah.
to translate it. So it translates oref as the back of a head and equally as weariness.
Weariness. Interesting. Well, that's like IF probably like IFA Agia. Yeah. Yeah. So what does it say?
Oh, so it says they will fly in unison against the Plishtim to the west.
So they say off as to fly, and bakasif is in unison. So that does not seem the way the Rambam is translating, because he says kolomar yitchafum bakasif lihischabaram bahem. They will push them with, I think kasef is shoulder usually, right? Ktafayim, like to join with them.
Like maybe shoulder to shoulder.
That could be, yeah. But either way, I'm not getting. This is just very confusing. Lo oref lo afui. So oref is perud. Does perud mean anything else other than separation? Maybe we're just translating the word wrong. I mean, I translate that way because of chibur, right? Chibur and perud is like combination and separation. Perud is separation, split, or disunion. Yeah.
Well, cut up. Wait, was it cut up is union?
How
did they translate?
Well, they flew
in unison.
in unison. Yeah.
Maybe
I mean, I like your shoulder to shoulder, Pirush.
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Huh.
Let's say if it's unison, like union.
Yeah. Union. And that would be in corresponding to, yeah, I guess something like that. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's just a weird word, right? I guess the next is the thing that combines the head to the body,
Interesting.
or that attaches the head to the body.
Right.
The attacher.
Cool.
I guess, yeah. Okay, but let's go on in the Rambam and Chelek just to get the rest of this yesod. And if we're responsible, which I think we should be, we should also read the first, second, and fourth yesodos while we're here, because that's what our Perek in the Mishnah Torah is about.
Yeah.
All right, fine. So we're going out of order. Okay, fine. So
I think it's worth noting where there's differences between how he's codifying this.
yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Klomar, fine. We said that. Amar Hanavi misadamuni kel tidamyun kel misadamyuni ve'eshve. So now he's invoking that pasuk. After he invoked that pasuk for us at the beginning when he was saying how God doesn't have a body. Here he's saying, and he says also ilu hayaguf ki az hayadoma legufos. So it's still in the same yesod, but it's a different order. Meaning, in the Mishnah Torah he says he's not a body. Hold on, not a body. Then a couple halachos later, several halachos later, no bodily occurrences. Here he's saying he is not a body and doesn't have bodily occurrences from the outset, and then he says he does not comparable to other bodies. So all the descriptions of his attributes that come in the Sfarim, whether walking, standing, sitting, speech, and other things like that, are all by way of homonyms or analogies or equivocation, whichever one you want to say. Ukamosha Amru, as they said, Dibra Torah Kalash B'nei Adam. Mikvar Dibru B'nei Adam B'inyan Zehar. People spoke about this a lot. V'zeh ha'yesod ha'shlishi asher hu mora alav mashnemar ki lo re'isim kol tumuna. Klomar lo hisagzim oso bal tumuna. Lefi shehu kamosha amarnu lo guf lo koch b'guf. Yeah. So what does it mean that you didn't see any image? This is another interesting thing. He's saying you didn't see an image. Does not just mean that he has no appearance, but it means that you didn't perceive him as something possessing an appearance, which, as we said, because he's not a body and he's not a bodily potential.
That's interesting. How can you perceive that? How can you perceive that something doesn't have a body?
Yeah, I know. I was wondering that because also there's a lot of stuff going on in Sinai.
Yeah.
Like maybe he was just behind the fire,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was also that's bothered me as well. Maybe God's just fireproof. Also, or God is the fire, right? I mean, right? And it says V'yer Hashem al Har Sinai. Yeah, that's what happens. By the way, is that the more you learn about Har Sinai, then the more difficulties mount, and you start noticing problems that you didn't notice before. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before we go back to the yesodos, I still want to understand in the Mishnah Torah, so we don't lose track of all these threads. So, what is this category as compared to the previous category. So again, previous category being the halacha listed as Yud Aleph, which ends at the word shinui, and then the halacha of ve'en lo mavis of lo chaim kachai haguf achai, etc.
The same paragraph sounds a lot more like terms that are actually used to describe God.
Yeah. As opposed to, what do you mean? That's also still kind of vague.
Well, I'm noting that the only thing that's standing out is that the second half has things that are no X-like people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, meaning the second one difference is that the second one involves negations, right? The first one is just saying obviously all is negations, but the first one saying he's not subject to all these things. And then the second paragraph is saying he doesn't have death at all. And then when we say God has life, it's not life like a living body. So it's like and this is like alluding to what we saw last time with the Rambam in Bakuda, that when you say God is alive, what you really mean is that he's not dead, right? But you don't know what it means that he's alive. Or when you say he is wise, you don't have any concept of the wisdom that he has. It's just that he's not foolish or ignorant. Yeah.
But isn't he not wise also?
But it's different. This is explaining why. Okay, let me think how to explain it with an example. Meaning, like, this is almost like, okay, let me see if I want to introduce this thing here. Like, one question that people often ask is like, why do we refer to God as a this is more of a question on the English language, because in Hebrew you don't have this, but why do we refer to God as hold on. A lot of directions to go here. Yeah, all right, so let's just tackle the question from the text. Okay, so the question is, why doesn't he just say, lo mavis v'lo chaim? What do you say to that?
Well, for some reason, we do want to say that he's alive.
Right. Right. So then that's where you get to your question you just asked, which is that, but it's not like any life that we know of. So
Right.
then, yeah.
So, right.
But
So
we
then-
still have to acknowledge existence. Just
Right.
existence that we're not sure what it is.
Well then, so what does it even mean that we're acknowledging existence then?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's the
how is that
question.
different? To say he exists is just as wrong as saying he doesn't exist.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is, I think based on the Bnei Bach we read, then that's not strictly speaking true. Well, sorry, no, strictly speaking, it is true. But developmentally speaking, it's not true. Because if you said God exists versus God doesn't exist,
Right.
even though both statements are true,
Mhm.
one leads down a road that takes you away from the type of Yedias Hashem that we can have, of treating God as a non-existent being, and the other one takes you down the road to the way of thinking about the world that God does exist in some way. Okay, I know that's just like, but like the way that the Sefer Ikkarim puts it is, he says that, what do we mean when we say God exists? Well, we know that the world exists and that God created the world, and things don't come from just don't pop into existence, So it came from an existence,
Right.
So it's like it is a conception of, it's like carving out the space in which there is a concept that you will never have, or like seeing someone from behind and having their the impression of their back impressed upon you. Yeah, it's hard to answer the question though. I it's a good question. But that's what I mean by the negations here, is he's saying, we want you to have the idea that God is alive and wise and speaks.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's not the same thing. It's not equally false as to saying that God is dead and foolish and silent.
Right.
But there is, like one of those concepts is closer to the truth than the other, even though we can't actually attain the truth.
In terms of like psychologically, the way you relate to those.
I don't even know if I want to call it psychologically, because it's also the way that you think about things. It's also intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, based on that, so then what are we saying when we say that all existence is a dependent existence on God?
Right.
On what?
Right. Yeah. Hold on. Just one second, just to clarify what I mean. When you say that God is angry,
Yeah.
that is for psychological effect.
Okay.
That's what we relate to God psychologically in the right way. But when you say God exists, that is not just psychological. That is also like getting the mind to think in a certain way.
Because you have no concept at all. If you don't
Yeah.
say it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. So now going to your question, when we say God is an infinite existence, we can't have any positive concept of that. Right.
But then, right, so I guess you could say that, like, you can't have any positive concept of that, but you can have, you run into a problem.
Yeah.
Of existence by this existence, because this existence can't be without something else.
Yeah.
So just because we can't know what that is, doesn't mean that we can't prove that it is. I don't know.
That one I didn't quite follow. It sounded good, but yeah. This is the difficulty here, right? I mean,
Maybe you're just talking about the things themselves. You're just saying there are dependent things, like, and on what?
yes, right.
Dependent.
And you're when you say that God is independent, you're just negating dependency or
Yeah.
contingency from him, but you can't possibly understand what that is. Let's go back to the actual Rambam again. So in that paragraph between Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, so I think it was fair to say these are all again, I don't know about the last sentence, the Kach Amru Chachamim, but the other ones, these are all characteristics. Whereas, like, I think even though characteristics and occurrences are both, strictly speaking, in the same category, I think we think of characteristics differently than occurrences. Occurrences are things that happen to you or that you are subject to. And, like, we don't think, for example, so technically speaking, being alive is an occurrence, but it's really a characteristic of the thing. That's how we think of it. And that's also how we think of emotions, even though emotions, see, once you say that God can't change, then of course he can't have emotions. Because then what does it mean to have an emotion? It doesn't mean to have them all at the same time.
Right.
Or to be capable of having emotions. It means to experience the emotions, to be angry or to be happy. So you've already ruled it out. So why is he going over it again? And then we gotta go to the last paragraph also, right? So I know we read this yesterday, but this is gonna just to complete the problems.
Yeah, it's also to think about the Kach Amru Chachamim. He mentions Ma'ala and Yeshiva and Anita, and those were in the first part.
Yeah, that's what confused me. It is possible that Kach Amru Chachamim is a summary of the entire thing, because especially if you take Orif and Ipui to be synonymous with Chibur and Pirud, then he's also referring to the first thing. It's just now he's quoting Chazal to support it, whereas he was just saying it before. Okay, but then he says, Hoil the Hadavar came. So now everything until now was statements, and then now this is an inference, right, or a conclusion. Since this is true, Kol Advarim Halalu V'Kiyot V'Ensham Nemru B'Torah U'V'Divrei Neviim Hakol Mashal Melitzahem Kamo Shenemar Yosef B'Shemaim Yischak Ki Yasuni B'Havlehem Kasher Sas Hashem B'Kiyot B'Hen. And those are just emotions, right?
They're all Mashal.
Yeah,
Right.
but he's not quoting examples. It's interesting that he only deploys the examples here. He doesn't quote examples of Yereh Hashem al Har Sinai, for Yerida, or Lo Yerani Lo Sucha Liros as Panai, to say that there's no panim. Just Simcha, Ka'as, and Sasan, which is just emotions. He could have very easily given 3 examples, but then had an emotion, a motion, and a place, or something like that, Al Hakol Amru Chachamim Dibra Torah Kalash Bnei Adam. Chenu Omer Ha'osi Himachisim. Another example of Ka'as, so not just of an emotion, but of Ka'as specifically, right? Why does he need a second example of Ka'as?
Right. Well, I guess now he's quoting Chazal. What having this question?
I don't think this is Chazal. I think this is Torah.
Oh, B'chein Hu Omer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Chazal ended with Dibra Torah Kalash Bnei Adam. Hare Hu Omer Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. Now this is another weird thing. It says, I am Hashem, I do not change, or I have not changed. See, now that again, that is a different rejection of emotion from the unqualified one in the paragraph beforehand. And the unqualified one beforehand, if you ask on that previous paragraph, why doesn't God have emotions? You'd say because that's Ma'oros HaGuf, and God doesn't have Ma'oros HaGuf. Now he's saying specifically, it would make him change, and there's nothing and hay mishtane, right? You'll have pa'amim kois pa'amim shamei hay mishtane. That's what I said before.
Weird.
And then he ends off. All of these things are only found in bodies that are lowly and dark and lowly, who dwell in houses of clay that have earth as their foundation. But he, blessed is he, is exalted and transcends all of this. So that's another thing. Why does he have to say at the end that like all these things? Why does he have to degrade, not degrade, but like to talk about just the lowliness of physical existence? See, it's very easy when you're reading the Rambam to just say, okay, I got the point. But like, it's like, he's constructing a sequencing of points here, and it's not clear what the sequence is, and it's not clear what the points are. I'm saying that about us, not about him. I mean,
Yes, Allah.
yeah. We got to bring that back. Whenever someone says Baruch Hashem, Yisale. So what do you want to do? You want to think about this more, or do you want to read the first, second, and fourth yesodos?
Yes.
Which one? The second one. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. So let's. And I don't know. Actually, what I think I do actually have this on my. I think I have this on my computer. Just give me 1 second to check it out. This looks like it. I think it's the same translation. Okay. You'll tell me if this is different than what you have here. Okay, so, I think it is different already. Hold on. No, maybe it's not. Okay, so we'll do the first yesod. Hayesod ha-rishon. Is that what it says? Okay, good. Mitzius habore yishtabach. Is the existence of God, may he be praised.
Yes, Shabbat.
Oh, yishtabach? Oh, yeah, so do I just read it wrong.
Yishbach. Yit Shabbat.
Yeah, yit. That's got to be a typo. Right, I think mine is right. Yishtabach. What yit shabach is not a thing, right? Yeah, no, but I'm saying it might be a typo in this. Yeah, I think I've just never heard of that conjugation.
Weird.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah. V'hu sheisham matzui b'shleimus ofani hametzios. See, this is very Al-Farabian, right? There exists not a matzui rishon. What's the first thing he says? An existence who is perfect in all types of existence. Yeah, right. V'hu ilas metzius kol hanimtzayin. He is the cause of all existence, of the existence of all existing things. Uvo kiyum metziusam, and in him is the preservation of their existence. Umimenu nimshach lahem hakiyum, and from them persistence. Yeah, is extends to them, right? Yeah. V'ilu nita'er siluk mitziuso, and if one were to describe, right, this is not email adas, but it's the equivalent, siluk mitziuso, the removal of his existence, ki oz batla mitzius kol nimsa, then the existence of all existing things, of every existing thing, would be negated. V'lo yishayar kayamim b'mitzius, they would not remain in existence. V'ilu nita'er siluk kol nimsa mizulasa, and if you were to imagine whatever the removal of the existence of everything other than him, then his existence would not be negated. And it would not lack. Because God is not dependent in his existence on anything other than him. Because anything other than him from the intelligences, namely the angels and the heavenly, the celestial causes, everything beneath him, everything is dependent on his existence. Yeah, so slight differences. I think the most alarming one is the perfect in all types of perfection. Yeah, but everything else is just like wording it in slightly different ways. He also introduces the malachim here, which I don't think it's definitely a cleaner presentation in the more in the Mishnah Torah where he's just talking about God, Okay, so any problems with this, or we could go on? Okay.
Wait, so on. The mitzvah is to hold this, to like believe in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to have this
Same
knowledge.
idea.
Yeah. Okay. Vayisod hasheni duso yisale, God's oneness. V'hu shezeh ilas hakol echad, that this cause of everything is one. You'll notice, by the way, he changed the yesodos here. This one begins with this cause of everything is one, and then he started off number 3 by saying this oneness is not physical. It's an interesting here, which is just, I think that's nodding to the fact that that these are all like interdependent concepts. I don't know though.
But I feel like he's also like building on each other.
Yeah,
so
that's also
included with that, and then he's like, well, I'll start the next one with, and based on this.
Right. Okay, so this cause of everything is one. Lo ka'achdus hamin v'lo ka'achdus hasug, same lashon as the Mishnah Torah. Not like the one of the species, not like the one of a. Well, actually, this is different. Sorry, not like the one of a genus, and not like the one of a species. Right? He didn't say that in the Mishnah Torah. He just said not like the one of a min, and not like one that can be split into many parts. Here he goes, genus and species. It's interesting. And now he says, "V'lo kadavar ha'echad hamurkav shuv mischalik la'achadim rabim." Not like something that's composite that can be divided into many oneness unities. And also not one like a simple body, but it could be receptive to division and splitting off infinitely. So it's interesting. He's not a composite like matter and form that can be broken into its components. He's not like a simple body that can be divided up into like one carrot that you could like chop up. Of Ella who Yis'ale echad achdus ein achdus kamohu b'shum panim. He's one with a oneness that has nothing like it in any way. Zeh yisod hasheni mor elav shnemar shema yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. Yeah. Okay, so that's the second. So that's virtually the same. Right?
Right.
Okay. Oh, I just realized. Awkward. Am I not even sharing the screen? I was still sharing the Mishnah Torah. Oh no. Okay, well, that's okay.
What's there a new thing to share?
It is. It's
Yes,
true.
no one noticed because no one sent anything.
Well, no one's on. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that God didn't say anything, but God doesn't have shtika at all.
Ooh.
Not even kashtika b'nei adam. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now this is something we're actually. Right when we get this, we realize that that the one I have is deficient. So there are two. The Ram made an edit here in number 4, the 4th yesod. You know about the edit? I think he made an edit. Maybe mine does have it. Oh no, mine does have it. Okay. Okay. So Yesod Haravi hakadmus. So kadmus meaning eternality, right?
Oh, there was like a different version of that, right?
Yeah. So he says Vuhu.
What was the other version?
Well, we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Vuhu. Well, we'll see where the division happens, or where the addition happened. Vuhu shezeh ha'echad hamatur. See, now he treats it back, goes back to the echad. This oneness, I guess, because you can't say this non-physicalityness, but you can say oneness.
Right.
This oneness that was described, hu hakadmon behechlet, hakadmon behechlet. He is definitively eternal. Okay. V'chol nimsa zulaso hu bilti kadmon biyachas elav. And anything other than him is not eternal in relation to him. There are many proofs of this in many books. So just to clarify here, what other things do we hold are eternal, but not like God? Because he's malachim, right? Malachim, the soul, olam haba. So all those things are eternal, but not truly eternal because they were created.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
they don't precede God.
They don't precede God, right? Right, and they didn't always exist. So I think the better word for them is they're everlasting, but they're not eternal.
So they're in time.
So that's the difficult part, right? Because they are in time insofar as they were brought into existence after the universe was created. And at one point they didn't exist. At one point they didn't exist. I don't know how to say that, but are they in time? I don't know. See, time is difficult, guys. Yeah. So in terms of the graphic representation here is that a finite being is a point, like a segment, right? Point connected, and then angel is a ray, right? Point, and then on infinitely, and then God is comparable to infinite
Right.
no beginning and no end.
What about like an idea?
So that's ideas are in the same
Yeah.
category as angels,
Okay.
right? Is that the ideas didn't exist before the universe. Not even a twinkle in God's non-physical eye. Yeah.
Okay, so what do we mean when we're saying the universe? Like you're saying like all of existence.
Yeah, the totality of the cosmos
Like
and
physical things.
non-physical things.
And non.
Yeah, because we don't hold that the angels existed eternally with God. That's like what he's rejecting here.
Right.
Yeah, angels were, and that's why Chazal say angels were created on second day or first day.
Second.
Second day. Yeah,
I
I mean
think-
they're not mentioned in the Torah, but
No.
I think
second.
second day also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but then he says, "V'zeh hayisod harvi hu shemora alav ma shenemar ma'ano elokei kenem." Ma'ana elokei kenem. I was sure how to say it. The abode of the holy, of the God of old. Okay, so I think that is where the original yesod ended in the פירוש המשניות, and then he added later, "V'da ki hayisod hagadol shel Torah's Moshe Rabbeinu hu hayos ha'olam mechudash." You should know that the great yesod of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu is that the universe was brought into existence. Yatzaro Hashem ubara'o achar ha'heder hamuchlat. He formed it and created it after absolute nothingness. V'zeh shetirei she'ani soviv saviv inyan kadmus ha'olam lefi das ha'filosofim. And when you see me circling around, see, he's emulating the Gogol. When you see me circling around the topic of the eternity of the universe based on the view of the philosophers, that's in order that there should be a proof, an absolute proof of his existence, as I have explained and clarified in the Moreh. That's how you know this was written much later, because the Moreh was the last of his works, of his major works. So I think, so why did he have to throw that in there? Do you think?
Because people thought that he didn't hold that the world was created.
Yeah. And do you know why they didn't think that?
Because he never said it anymore. Or he had a proof of God that
Not
didn't
eternal.
hold, that didn't need that.
Yes. Yeah. Because in the Moreh Nevuchim, which the whole second Chelek of the Moreh Nevuchim is about, he proves the existence of God on the, is it in the second? I think it's in the second. Okay. Proves the existence of God on the basis of the assumption that the universe is eternal.
Right.
But he doesn't hold that the universe is eternal.
Right.
Yeah.
So why prove God on that basis then?
I don't remember what his reason was.
Doesn't he say that you can't prove one way or another that the universe is eternal?
Yeah, I mean, that's also true, right?
So maybe he just wants a solid proof.
That could be one that's going to cover the most bases.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you don't have to, once you're accepting Chiddush Olam, you can just accept God.
Yeah, that's true
And
also.
prove
Right, that's true. Meaning,
Yeah.
right. But even according to the eternity.
Just to strengthen it, I guess.
Yeah, right. So I guess he had to insert, does Kafka comment on that? There should be a footnote around there somewhere. Yeah, in footnote 34. Yeah, so that's what he says. He says, the first says, Dvarim Lamed Gimel Chav Zayin. Umikan ad sof hayesod hazeh lo haya b'mahadura kama v'lese b'nidfas v'lo barov kisvei yad teman. So this is a late edition. So it's not in the first edition of the פירוש המשניות. It's not in the published editions now, and it's not even in the majority of the handwritten manuscripts in Yemen. Okay.
How did we get here?
V'hosifu Rabbeinu b'ksav yado harahut b'shule ksav yad echad. So the Rambam wrote it in very hasty handwriting, in his own handwriting, in one handwritten manuscript edition. So that's how he got it. I mean, remember, this is Kafka's jam, is that he had a bunch of manuscripts that were passed down from the time of the Rambam, and that suitcase that was stolen. You know about that?
No.
There was a bunch of his manuscripts were stolen.
No.
Yeah, so like,
Where'd they go?
there was.
He just wanted to read them.
I know. I think I don't know. I think he was traveling or something.
Did they know what they were stealing?
I don't
Or were
know.
they trying to steal his transcripts? Or were they
I don't
trying to
even-
steal a briefcase in there.
I always picture it as a briefcase thing, but I don't really know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because at that time it was just, I mean,
Right.
yeah, it wasn't as valuable to them in the present as it is to us now, I think.
Right.
or to the person trying to steal it. I would
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah. Although I also don't know when this happened.
Right.
Maybe it was a time traveler who went back and
Yeah.
And in a few years, when we get them.
So in terms of, so I think this is a good stopping place for today, but in terms of tomorrow, I think, so we have two options for what to do tomorrow, okay? One is, because this will bring us to chapter 2 now, okay? Assuming that we're not gonna come back to these questions right now, because it's Bekius here. So tomorrow in the beginning of the Perek Chelek, he goes into Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. I want to do Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem in the Sefer Mitzvos, and there's a good chance that that'll take the whole time. And that way we would start with the Sefer Mitzvos on those 2 mitzvos tomorrow, which is our last day of Rambam Bekius this week. And then next week, remember, I'm not giving Shir on Monday or Tuesday, which is why I don't want to start the Mishnah Torah tomorrow, you know? So that's one option. Option 2 is do something in Rambam Bekius that is Chanukah related for tomorrow and hold off on Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem in its entirety until next week. And then Isaac, you were raising your hand for some other reason?
Yeah, it was that. I remember that we had discussed going through Hilchos Megilah and Chanukah.
We did, but and we could do that. We could even do that for the entirety of Chanukah of today and then Wednesday and Thursday, and then go to Avos and Yiras Hashem after Chanukah, assuming we're alive. Yeah. Right.
We could do that.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Chanukah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we can do Chanukah. All right. The only thing we got to be careful about is there's a lot of potential places to get bogged down in. So what I would like to do is make a concerted effort that in the 3 sessions we have of tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday to get through all of Megillah, not Megillah, we won't do Megillah, but all of Chanukah, okay? Just so that we can no one likes learning Chanukah stuff after Chanukah, let's be honest. Yeah. All right, so let's stop here.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.